James Ham on their way in. James, what's happening, my man?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, what the hell is Alvin Gentry contemplating? Why don't we know the stuff? What is going on? What are we at that stage of the season? Is he over? What is happening, James?
No, I mean, it's funny because Alvin has been a guy who has been very upfront about his starting lineup so far, which isn't always the case. Every coach has it differently. I know Dave Yeager, would never tell us a starting lineup ever. And every once in a while, I get a text like right before it came out, like, "Hey, here's a starting lineup. It's totally different." But then some coaches, they write it on the chalk on the whiteboard when you walk in. It's like starting lineup, and you know exactly who's starting every night. So I think it's a little different tonight because do you tried to match up with somebody and that didn't go well. So maybe the best thing to do is to run the same starting lineup out there that's been pretty successful over the last couple of games before this little 2-game hiccup, and see how that one does.
James, what the hell was that from Alvin and Gentry all weekend long? What was that from the crunch time decision to have Buddy Hield in the game over Harrison Barnes, to trying to match up with the Cavs and throwing Marvin Bagley out there, and the first sub off the bench was Buddy Hield? Like what was all this on over the weekend?
You know, I got to be honest with you. The Friday night deal was a head scratcher. I actually got into a long discussion with someone inside the walls over there about that, because I was confused by it. And the answer was he was out there to space the floor, that they thought that the reason why De'Aaron Fox was so successful in that fourth quarter where he put 14 points on the board was because they had the proper spacing. And my answer was like, well, isn't Harrison Barnes a better 3-point shooter? And the same could be said just about a bunch of the guys on the team, especially over the last week. You know, Davion Mitchell has been a much better 3-point shooter. Terrence Davis has been a much better 3-point shooter than Buddy Hield. So I think what he's trying to do there, he talked a little bit about it during pregame today, is he looks at him almost like a Major League Baseball hitter who's just in a slump, and you're trying to get him out of the slump. And so you're going to go with him. But for me, we passed the point where, you can give away games. We're at that point where you've already given away too many, and you need to win every single game that's possible. And when you have a game that's within a couple of points in the final minutes, I just don't know how you do that. I don't know how you play him, just because even if he's going okay, he's still a mistake player. He's still a guy who makes errors. That's just who he is as a player. And it's not always the highly visible turnovers, which he does a few of those. His live ball turnovers are notorious. But it's the rotations. It's the not getting guys on a back cut. It's not boxing out. It's leaving a guy in the corner, which we talked about when he goes for a block. So for me, I was confused by it as well. I asked Alvin specifically about it, and he was slightly defensive about it, which, to be honest with you, I don't usually question coaching decisions within a game. I don't, but to me, that one was egregious. And Buddy Hield stopped hitting shots in the first 3 minutes of the second quarter.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't hit anything. And you let him out there to go 0 for 5. And their point isn't that he went 0 for 5. It's that just by him being there creates space for others. And I mean, I understand that.
Yeah, they got to stop with that lie, James. They've been saying that for 3 years. It hasn't resulted in winning basketball. It hasn't resulted in wins. It hasn't resulted in Buddy playing better. Yeah. They got it. I love everybody that covers this team, does all this other stuff for the Sacramento Kings, but we got to stop saying that. I'm starting that movement right now. The Buddy, just the threat of him alone. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I think once you get to a point though where the game is tight, that's when it's
can't be out there.
It can't be about that unless he's just playing out of his mind and he's hitting everything.
Still wouldn't do it. The play that killed them, James, was on defense. It was nothing he did offensively. It was what he did defensively. A play that everybody knows when they see it. Harrison Barnes wouldn't have done that. And that's all this boils down to. If there's a reason to have Buddy out there, and Harrison, like, fine, whatever. You literally left one of your smartest players, if not the smartest player on your team, on the bench for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say, like, I'm not going to defend the decision because that, to me, I would not have done what he did. But Harrison Barnes has not looked like Harrison Barnes since he's been back. He had some moments in his first game back where he looked more like himself, but overall, he really hasn't looked like himself. So I think there's a bit of concern there, just that he's not fully 100%. Now the Kings aren't saying that. That's me saying that just by watching him. He just doesn't seem to have like his mojo, like whatever it was that he had early in the season, that's gone. But now what we're seeing is he needs to find himself like very quickly. It's just, it's not pretty to watch a lot of the time. And so I can kind of see like maybe Harrison wasn't the answer, but Harrison's always the answer for this team.
Yeah.
Like in those situations, Harrison is always the answer. He's one of your 2 or 3 best players. And it's not just that he puts up points or he'll get you a rebound, is that he does the little things. He's one of those players that senses what's going wrong in a game, and then he tries to fill that void. And that's what I like about Harrison as a player. If you need more 3-point shooting, he's going to start bombing. If you need to get to the basket because you're missing too many threes, he's that guy. He's a guy that gets to the line, who does the little things that this team needs. And so, again, I don't have an explanation. It's why I asked about it. And rarely do I question coaching decisions because, look, I don't have a win-loss record. I do. I mean, you could go back and count my wins and losses over the last 12 years, and I have one of the worst win-loss records of any beat writer in the history of the NBA. I guarantee it because I cover a team that's missed playoffs for 15 consecutive seasons. But at the same time, he has a win-loss record that's printed everywhere, that goes with him, that follows him. And so I tend to not question like in-game decisions because I can usually see the logic of them. This is just one that again, and Alvin is growing on me. I mean, he's a guy that I really, really enjoy to cover. He's witty. He's funny. He's engaging. He's a great soundbite for us as writers. But at the same time, like, that was an error, in my opinion. And I don't know if it cost them the game or not. We can say, oh, it's what happened in the third quarter, or this missed shot or that missed shot. De'Aaron Fox missed 2 free throws that would have won the game. And he knows that. They didn't have a timeout. There was 2.4 seconds left, something like that. It would take a Herculean effort for them not to lose that game. And then he bricks both free throws. So, and the crazy thing is, like, we live in this world in Sacramento where the sky is falling all the time, right? There's so many highs and lows. If De'Aaron Fox hits 1 out of 2, they're in overtime, and who knows what happens. If he hits both, they have a 4-game win streak heading into Saturday. Even if they get clubbed against the Cavs, there is no sky is falling. Everyone's okay. But when you lose like this, you lose once where it's a heartbreaker, and then the next game, you kind of show your true self. That's the problem. That's when everyone goes, okay. That's when I write, takedown pieces, because it's my job. It's my job to hold people accountable and to it's an educated opinion, but at the same time, this team shows you who they are all the time. Yeah. And if you think that this team is a playoff team, then, you might get lucky and be right. But they're not a playoff team for the next 5 or 6 years, the way they're constructed. They're not a team that's going to go through like this stretch of like the 8-year run that Rick Adelman had. That's not who they are. They've shown it to us time and time again. There has to be changes at some point.
Wow.
And listening to Casey, I want to hit this real quick. You're listening to D'Lo and Casey on ESPN 1320, KIFM, West Sacramento, and Odyssey Station, and driven by Lashers, Elk Grove Dodge, 1320. Kings insider James Ham with us. We're talking Kings, but it is a 49ers Monday, brought to you by Gilmore Heating, Air, and Plumbing. Right now, Gilmore is offering Niner fans a $49 furnace safety inspection. Just mention this ad. You get more with Gilmore. Casey, go ahead.
I was just going to say we can move on to Saturday now. Because
good.
That was I mentioned to Damien earlier. Should De'Aaron Fox have made his free throws? Like, yeah, you make your free throws. Like, he missed them both. Is it ridiculous that Charlotte only had 7 players or whatever. Yeah, it's ridiculous, whatever the case may be. You can justify it. You can say, hey, that's the NBA. What I always say, those guys get paid too. All this, you can say all that. Saturday was embarrassing. The Cavs looked at the Kings as easy work. They looked at them as food, and they treated them as such. And there was no resistance whatsoever from Sacramento. They let it happen. They let it happen. And that, like you mentioned, is just the story of watching this team for the last 15 years, but I'll even shorten it up, this group for the last 3 or 4 years. It's just what they do. They're not tough enough mentally and physically to withstand those type of moments. And then you have Alvin Gentry saying we are not quitters. And I'm gonna let you rock on that, James, and everything that transpired Saturday, afterwards, during the game, all that. I just want to know. I want the people to know your thoughts if they didn't read them already.
Yeah, so my Sunday musings, I wrote about that. Like we talk about it all the time. Like this team has their catchphrases that you can just put on a shirt, and live by the buddy, die by the buddy. Like if that, I haven't seen the shirt yet, but I'm not sure why. Maybe because
Dave Garcia, if you're listening, 2 shirt ideas here from James Hammond. We can get up on DLoandKC.com.
Yeah, and then I'm going to start with the Alvin Gentry line, and then I'm going to move backwards into the game. It was strange, to be honest. And he's done this twice where like he came out really hard and was really angry with his team and frustrated following the Lakers game.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave his speech at the beginning of the press conference. And it was tough. Like he wasn't happy at all. He apologized to the city of Sacramento, the fans, everyone else. We get to the end of that press conference and we're ready to get up and walk away. Well, he's ready to get up and walk away. We had more players coming. And he said it again. He said, hey, I want everyone to know and to hear this again. Like, this is unacceptable. This is not who we are. We owe everyone an apology, blah, blah, blah. Right. Well, we got to the end of the press conference on Saturday night, and there weren't a lot of people there, to be honest with you. A lot of, other coverage was happening, high school football. There's a UFC fight with a local guy, all that stuff. So there weren't as many people. So we went through our normal questions. I asked him again about Buddy Hield. No, that was the game before when I asked about Buddy Hield. I asked him about the fragility of the team again, and just how they don't seem to be able to accept success. Because I think as much as like hating to lose and all, like this team does not understand how to deal with success. When they win a couple of games, they all of a sudden think that they're much better than they are. And then they let off and they come out and they get thumped. So anyway, we get to the end and we're like, zoning out on the Zoom. Everyone's asked their questions. And he literally goes, hey, we're not quitters. And it was like this line that if Alvin Gentry thinks that we think that his team are quitters, then that means that thought has slipped into his head.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's where it was like, oh, this is an awkward moment. This is an awkward moment where you're acknowledging that we should feel that way, that we might feel that way. And to me, again, it was an incredible soundbite, and I don't even blame him for saying it. And I get the motivation for him to say it and his thought process. It does not play out like you think it does, because now you vocalized what you thought we were thinking. And if your media thinks that you're quitters, you got a big time problem. And if you think that your media thinks that you're quitters, I think that may
you've got a big time problem.
You got a bigger problem than you think. And this isn't again, like there's nothing that I think that he's done wrong here it's just such a small window. He's 5-5. And that's the crazy thing. They win on Friday, they're 6-4. But when we get to the game coverage, itself, I watched it from the opening tip. Like the Kings were timid. They were worried. You watch guys like walk and like could break down their guy, get into the lane, and then like, uh-oh, they got a bunch of tall guys, and then back out. Like so many open opportunities, so many like just easy baskets. The only guy who seemed like he was willing to fight in that first segment of the game was Alex Len. And that's a problem because Alex Len, like skill wise, he's limited. He can either shoot the three or he's under the basket doing damage. He can do a little pick and roll stuff, but he's not a guy who can take someone off the dribble. He's not someone that you want putting it on the floor at all. Like, I don't know that I've seen Alex Len dribble more than like 5 times ever. And that's fine. That's who Alex Len is. But when he goes in and he hammered a ball down on Jared Allen, that was like the one time where I thought, okay, maybe that will wake these guys up. But it wasn't. The starters, all of the starters, except for Tyrese Halliburton, were running a negative 20 heading into the fourth quarter, a negative 20 in the plus minus. I think Fox was like minus 25. Barnes was minus 24. Same with Marvin. And then I'm trying to think all their starters at this point. One was at negative 23. And then you had
probably the other one.
Yeah, Bagley was it negative 24, and then Len was at like negative 23, something like that. And then Halliburton was at a negative 11. Well, Halliburton figured out how to get his up with the other guys in the final 4 minutes of the game, where he came in and all of a sudden where it was like an 8-point game or 7-point game. And all of a sudden they got whomped on it. It was a 16-point game instantly. So he finished with a negative 19, even though he had a negative 11 going into the last 4 minutes of the game. The starters were the problem. They did not play with any energy, with any heart, with any whatever you want to say. They just got pushed around. And we always talk about, oh, it's a young team. Well, I hate to tell you this, but that team they're playing is younger than they are. That's a bunch of young upstart dudes that just came out and punked you. And so I was really surprised by just it's these moments. Like, who gives up 81 points in a half?
Yeah.
That's just shocking. And Alvin's talking about the defense in the second half. It's like the defense in the second half didn't matter. You were down by 30. Like, who cares if you miss shots in a game like that?
I want to ask you more about that Cleveland game. And as we're waiting for the starting lineup tonight, I actually want to ask you a question about the starting lineup, and we will do all of that with our 1320 Kings insider James Ham when we return here. We're talking Kings basketball, even though it's a 49ers money. 49ers get the win. Yesterday is brought to you by City Center Financial. Refinance today below 1.99% APR at 1866. Go City 6. Back with more D'Lo and KC next. Oh, 2 more Gilmore. Okay. Okay.
Oh, man.
This team, James, this team. By the way, I know we brought this up earlier in the show. A couple of people bring it up. I don't think Fox was smiling after the free throws because he was smiling like Buddy was with Anthony Davis. Like, I think he was embarrassed, or like it just kind of like he just didn't. It was like a defense mechanism, and I think we've all kind of done it. I think that's what it was. It wasn't. I know we're all on high alert for Kings players smiling after losses because of Buddy yucking it up with Anthony Davis, but I do not think at all that that's what De'Aaron Fox was doing.
No, I don't think so either. Like, Fox was stunned.
Yeah,
that's what that was. Like, if you're not laughing, you're crying in that situation.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I think he was embarrassed. I mean, and to be honest, he was so good. Like, for him to lose like that, it's just like so disheartening. For him to be the reason that, and again, we can say that, oh, it wasn't just that. But at the end of the day, it is just that. Like, you step to the line, you either hit them or you didn't. And he was really honest. He said the first one, I just barely sent it long, and I caught the back of the iron, and it hit the back and like flipped out. So it actually went in and out. And then the second one, he was worried about hitting the back. He got in his head. He was worried about hitting the back of the iron again, and he short-armed it. And then Marvin had a chance. I love the NBA. Their last 2-minute report, like, you just like, it's the biggest middle finger of all time. It really is. It's a joke because it's not like they do anything to guys who miss something. But you're going to tell me that Marvin Bagley, no contact was made when he went up to put the ball back in? Like there was no contact. And it's like from the 18-second mark on, there is nothing in the 2-minute report. And so just for me, it's like, why even do it? If you're not going to be honest like the whole time about it, why even do it?
Yeah.
So, and even if they would have put it in there, they would have put some random thing at like the 42-second mark where somebody, brushed up against somebody and it should have been a foul call. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, I stalled Fox out a little bit because number one, he played so well in the fourth quarter. So there's that. But I'll be fully transparent. Maybe, superstars or other people don't see it the same way. Those are some tough free throws right there. Free throws in general, I've always find, like, as much as I'm like, you have to make all your free throws and stuff, in that spot, anybody that tells you they're not nervous is lying to you. You're nervous. The guys that can overcome their nerves and get back to their routine and their muscle memory, those are the guys that are clutch in those situations. But yeah, you feel some type of nerves. And then you look at somebody like De'Aaron. De'Aaron is improving as a free throw shooter, but he's not necessarily confident. He's not like Steph Curry confident at the line. So I'm sure there were nerves going through him, and he missed 2 free throws, man. Taking a free throw in that situation is a lot more nerve-wracking than taking a game-winning shot. Like the game-winning shot is just a natural movement.
Bang, bang.
Pull up.
Yeah.
Free throws that plays with your mind a little bit, or it can.
And he was 8 of 8.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, he was 8 of 8 before. He was absolutely perfect. So, yeah, I mean, I felt for him, and that's the look on his face was, man, I just let everyone down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. That's like, we got a 4-game win streak. We're not, if they win that game, they're not just the 10 spot. They're moving up. They're probably the 8. And then there's some excitement and people are all in. But again, like, you can't be that. You can't lose a tight one like that. And I'm with you. Like, there are people missing, but who cares? It's the NBA. When you go out there, everyone wants to fight. And that's why the Kings like erased like a 28-point lead, 29-point lead, and got it within 7 or 8 with a bunch of, rookies, second year bench players. That's what they went on their run.
Hang on 1 second, James.
Yeah,
sorry, James, for coming back. It's 49ers Monday, brought to you by Gilmore Heating, Air, and Plumbing. Right now, Gilmore is offering Niner fans a $49 furnace safety inspection. Just mentioned this ad. You get more with Gilmore, but we're talking Kings basketball. Shout out to the 49ers for getting the win yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals. We've got Kings basketball today coming up at 4 o'clock, and the conversation didn't end when we went to commercial break. It continued. We started, we were talking with the people on the stream and in the chat house and all that. And you can check us out on twitch.tv/ESPN1320 and youtube.com. /ESPN 1320 about De'Aaron's missed free throws. And Kenny, who is normally extremely hard on free throws, period. That's a difficult shot with the shots plural with everyone watching you. And James, you alluded to this as well. I think, people did Tyrese, kind of psych himself out, and the response that he gave in the press conference, De'Aaron did psych himself out. Like he talked about hitting the back of the rim, and he said, all I wanted to do was, just not hit the back of the rim. And he didn't. He hit the front of the rim. Like, he kind of, I think he did exactly what the very definition of he got in his head after he missed the first free throw, and it caused him to miss the second one.
Yeah. So we talk all the time. It seems like this season more than any other, we talk about player reactions or body language or personalities Like, it seems like it's such like it's right there for us to look and see and analyze. And I think maybe it's because we have too much time. Maybe it's because we're not used to seeing people out in public anymore, or seeing faces, or seeing people's mouths, because we're wearing masks all the time. There's something about this season in particular that I think that we are really looking at how players are reacting,
I think it's
how
the
they
frustration with the team.
I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. But like when I saw Fox sitting there and he had a smile on his face and he's shaking his head, that was bitter disappointment. That was
Mhm.
embarrassment. It was, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe I just did that. I can't believe it's like when you're driving a car and you accidentally take a corner too tight and you sideswipe something, and you get out and you look at your car and you're like, I cannot believe I just did that. And there's like
Yeah.
a big dent, and that's what I think Fox was. He was sitting there like he was just in shock, and just so disappointed in the moment. And then again, he was really honest about it. Like, I I hit the back of the iron on the first one. He was 8 of 8 before that. Like, he
Mhm.
was hitting his free throws. He's all the way up to almost 75% from the line, when, everyone keeps saying you got to get better, you got to get better. If he can get up to like 78 to 80, then I really do believe that he's going to be like, that's him at a premium. That's when he's fully in his flow and he's getting to the line all the time. But like, no one was more disappointed in that moment than De'Aaron Fox. And
Mm.
I mean, that's what I read. I did not read that this is fun. And that was like, I'm either laughing or I'm crying.
Yeah.
So
So, and I agree with 100% with everything you're saying, James. And I don't like there's accountability, because like you mentioned, James, we can talk about defensive misassignments and rotations and all this other stuff, but De'Aaron Fox, you're at the line to put the game away. You didn't do it. So that's, if I was De'Aaron Fox, I'd say that's on me, right? I would be like, I let the guys down. I should have brought that home. It's basketball, though. What happens? What was one of the great moments in Sacramento Kings history? Larry Bird missed 2 free throws at Old Arco.
people forget that.
Yeah,
People forget that's the first time. That's the first game at Old Orco.
yeah. See, it's
Yeah.
right. Like that's about it. Happens from time to time. But
I
I
think
feel
that's cap. Larry Bird never misses free throws. Michael Jordan has never missed a shot in his entire life. Like, stop it. You're making stuff up, Kenny.
Jordan
You know what,
from the
though?
field.
I actually have a story about that. So again, like, if you grew up here, like, there was no team like before 1985. So like myself, I was a Lakers fan when I was a kid. They were so much fun to watch.
Wow.
Watching Magic Johnson,
The
watching
truth has
James,
come out.
yeah, watching James Worthy, watching that Byron Scott,
Mhm.
like that whole, like, that was amazing, right? Well, when the Kings moved here, so that first night, which is like the Celtics, it's like it sells out. I don't know if it was the first game ever in Arco 1, but it was, I think that it was. So they said that they actually had sold out of Celtics hats because there are so many Celtics fans. And then they said when they actually had sold out of Kings hats as well. There were so many people that were like, okay, well, I'm going to buy one because this is cool. This is the first game.
Mm.
And they said that as that game started to tighten up, you slowly saw people reach under their seat and pull out the Kings hat. And it
Mm.
was this moment where Kings fans were born. And so it's like this stunning moment where people took off Celtics hats and started putting on their Kings hats, and then Bird, of course, misses the free throws. So again, Larry Bird missed free throws.
Right.
Larry Bird's one of the greatest shooters, one of the greatest NBA players of all time. He misses free throws in a crucial spot and cost his team a win
Mhm.
against a Sacramento Kings team that was not good. They were the Celtics. I mean, we're talking about the 85-86 Celtics.
Hmm.
Like that, I mean, Robert
Mhm.
Parrish,
One of the
Dennis
greatest teams of
Johnson,
all
Danny
time.
Ainge, Kevin McHale, Larry Bird. I mean, that team is off the charts. And, Kings win.
Yeah.
So again, like, these moments, they happen for everybody. It's just when all this other pressure about who's the head of the snake and what does the head of the snake mean and all that stuff. It's tough because now, like, you had an opportunity for a win and to put your team add a 4-game win streak and to put your team up in the standings even further than they were already. And you blew it. And I feel bad for him. That's how I felt about that moment.
So two things. The first game at the old Arco was actually against the Los Angeles Clippers, if I have that right. I'm trying to find when the Lakers game was, or excuse me, when the Celtics game was. Second of all, wow.
Okay, Lake Show.
The realization that James Ham was repping for the hated Los Angeles Lakers, a young James Ham and an old Kenny Caraway.
Okay, Lake Show.
Get y'all Lakers gear, man.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, that team was so good. So, so fun to watch. And it was the battle of two, superpowers at all times. And I think at that point too, in history, we were all into the superpower thing, right? So it's like us, it's a US versus, it was February 11th.
God, I hate that you can find stuff faster than I do.
Yeah, it was February 11th.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, but again, just remember that's when the Celtics are just, they're incredible. That season, they're just off the charts. But again, I think they won 67 games that season. 67 games.
Bird.
And they were the NBA champions.
Was 12 of 16 from the free throw line.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Larry Bird.
How many did he have? I had to be a 30-point night.
Larry Bird was 12 of 16 from the free throw line. The Boston Celtics as a team were 2 of 8 from 3.
Yeah, the old school. Hey,
they were a slow Buddy Hield quarter in an entire game.
And the Celtics had won 13 straight coming into that night, and then won the next 3 games. So
they were 38-9 at the time.
Yeah, they were actually
40-1 home record team. That team.
I mean, they won 67 games, and they won
40-1 at home, I think, that year.
Yeah. So so it's not the first game, and Arco 1 still stands. I think that's something that, like, if you're a true Kings fan, you need to like go take the trip over. It's just sitting there. It's the like I shot Greg Van Dusen and Peterson. I'm gonna forget his first name. Out in front of Arco 1 for Small Market Big Heart. And that was a Greg Van Dusen thing. He wanted to be out there. And to be honest with you, the shot was beautiful because it was so bright and shiny outside. It was so bright that we were able to get this perfectly clean shot. The problem was it was like 109 and it overdid all of our cameras while we were shooting. So, and then afterwards, we had to find the daughter of the 2 brothers who made the statues out in front, because it's a piece of art and you have to have them sign off to put it into a film. But yeah, it's a Department of Consumer Affairs. I think that's what it is. And it's owned by the Buzz Oates group still, which is now Phil Oates and all those guys. So
small market, big heart, by the way, is on YouTube for those who want to watch it.
I always wished, well, I think I did this for Arco too, but I mean, man, it doesn't happen now, but if they could ever do it for Arco 1, that'd be great. Kings need to do, and I think they literally can't anymore, but they need to do like Milwaukee did with the Mecca in Milwaukee, where they remember like 2-3 years ago, they played a game at the Mecca because it might've been closing down or something like that. And they played a regular season game against the Celtics, Kyrie Irving led Celtics at the Mecca. Kings need to have a game at, like I said, they can't do it at either no more, but they need to have one at Arco 1 or Arco 2.
You know what the greatest thing about that game that you're referencing is the Kyrie Irving quote, where they're playing they're playing on the old modeled court, and he's talking to the reporters going, I don't know. I don't know about playing on this old court. Like, I don't like the way it feels. Like, I'm not sure I'm going to play tonight. And the guys are like, well, no, it's a new court. He's like, no, I can feel it. Like, I can tell this is an old court. No, the court's new. The logo is old. And Kyrie's like, no, I know what a court feels like. Okay. And Kyrie thought the court was like 50 years old.
It's possible he thought that the court was round because
He very well may
clearly
have.
the earth is flat, so the court must have been round.
And he
Yeah.
knows a court. He knows a court.
That is my favorite Kyrie Irving soundbite of all time.
But
Yeah.
James, so roundabout way to say that happens. What happens on Friday happens. And ever since you told me or told us about the Lakers game where Fox had missed some shots, turned the ball over or whatever, and while things were slipping away, not that he said this, but it just felt like he was like, well, I've already done enough damage. I'm not going to add to it.
Yeah.
That stays in my head. And I think about Saturday and it's coming off of what happened on Friday night. I was pretty confident we were going to get that type of De'Aaron Fox game. Where it was going to be kind of passive. It wasn't going to be very aggressive. Like he like going back to back like that. I don't feel like, and I could be completely wrong. He could care less. He could be listening to this as he's on the floor warming up in Toronto and be like, this guy knows nothing about me. But I feel like he wasn't going to shake that off in 24 hours and come out and kill against Cleveland. I didn't believe that he would. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, nobody did, but that's what I'm looking for from De'Aaron Fox. Like that defensive back mentality. Where, yeah, I might have blew that game on Friday night, but watch what I do tonight. Like, that's the one that concerns me more than him missing those 2 free throws on Friday.
We got a new starting lineup, just so you guys know.
Okay.
The Sacramento Kings will start De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, Harrison Barnes, Chimezie Metu, and Alex Len. How about them apples?
All right, Alvin.
I mean, Chimezie Metu hasn't played in a couple of games, but again, like Chimezie plays hard. You're talking about Fox. Okay,
Wait, no, stop.
All right.
Go back.
What,
we got to go back.
What did Terrence Davis do? Is Terrence Davis hurt?
Bench last game.
No, Terrence Davis isn't. I mean, you got to remember, the Toronto is big, like Cleveland is. Like Toronto has a huge.
Oh, James, that's stupid, man.
Hey, I'm just telling you what they're doing.
You're here. I'm blaming you. This is your win, James. You've got a win-loss record here. I'm putting this one on you. This is what I was when I brought it up before the break. Why do they keep adjusting for the teams that they're playing? Just put out your best lineup and freaking play basketball.
I agree. I would also say that the lineup with Terrence Davis, it got you 3 wins in a row. Like that's the one that got you 3 wins in a row. I don't get it. I don't get why they tinker, but he said he's going to keep tinkering. He also said Damian Jones will play tonight. So that means
I'm fine with that.
That maybe what would probably means that, in Canada, you're not going to play Tristan Thompson, one of the Canadian legends.
He's a legend.
I mean, unless you're going 3 deep with your bigs, which I'm not sure that they would do that either. So
it's becoming a mess.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Go ahead. You were talking about De'Aaron Fox. I don't get this at all.
My problem with De'Aaron was like defensively. It was just he just let them go. Like there were so many moments, even when Alex Oriaki. No, Jesus, not Alex Oriaki. Jesus,
Isaac
Okoro. Yeah, Okoro running downhill on him. Yeah. Fox just said, "Okay, go ahead and go. It's all you." And I was just shocked. Like, play some defense. Just get into him. Like, and again, they're structurally, I don't agree with their defensive sets because it always looks like Fox is getting blown by. He's not. He's getting picked at the top, and they're not running a big man out to stop it. They're setting the nail way too deep, and they're letting Fox get hung up. Fox, Davion, Tyrese, all of them, they're getting hung up on the pick way up high, and the big man isn't there to slow down the action, and it's just a mess. Like that is a structural, that is a coached issue, And so like there are things that I see that I just don't agree with too. Like you're switching guy, or you're not switching defense. Like there's all of these different defenses that we're seeing. Yeah, cash considerations, Alex Oriaki. That's what you got for Isaiah Thomas, who's back in the G League and just signed with Denver Nuggets G League squad today.
Good stuff, right?
We could see IT and Michael Malone together again. We could see that.
But wouldn't that be the third time? Didn't Isaiah already sign with the Denver Nuggets once before, and they didn't I thought he did really well, and then it was just over.
Yeah.
Or am I making that up?
No, I mean,
I thought he was.
No, I thought I was one of his. He went to Washington, then he went to Denver, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Did he go to Denver?
I know at least once.
He did go to Denver. Yeah, he did. So
he just wasn't there very long.
12 games. He had 12 games, and he didn't shoot the ball well at all in Denver. Yeah, and that's right before he went to Washington, and I thought he was really good in Washington, and then they just bailed on him. So yeah, we'll see if he gets another shot. I hope he does. He's a good dude. One of my favorite guys to cover because he was just so incredibly honest, like brutally honest and almost like nonchalant about it. That that's who he is. He's just, I'm just going to tell you, I'll be honest. Like, what do I got to hide? And not only that, but he showed up at city council meetings while the team was trying to relocate to his hometown, and he was fighting for Kings fans.
He was the anti-Spencer Hawes.
The anti-Spencer Hawes. Yeah. I would say that. Yeah. That, I mean, again, he wasn't well liked. I don't know about media members at the time. I think media was okay with him, but like within the walls and stuff, he's an agitator and a guy with very strict political views and not afraid to share them. And his views are counter to most NBA players' views. So yeah,
who's the most disliked player you covered? Was it him?
No, because I didn't cover him.
He
wasn't in. Well, I didn't cover him in Sacramento. I saw him come through, but no. I don't know the most disliked player. I don't think that there's anyone that I've ever seen in Sacramento that people like within the locker room totally disliked. I mean, maybe there were definitely guys that did not like DeMarcus. Like I know, like Jason Thompson and him had a long-standing riff. Dante Green and him had a long-standing riff because Dante Green and Jason Thompson were close. So there are guys like that just weren't well. I mean, Cousins was like a centerpiece who wasn't well received. But outside of that, like, and I can get along with anybody. That's kind of like who I am. So I don't mind walking in and talking to anybody. People were very like guarded when it came to Terrence Williams. And then we also had that really weird situation where the Kings had no point guard and Michael Malone begged for a point guard, and Pete D'Alessandro went out and signed White. What's his first round pick for the Houston Rockets that was out of the league, Royce White. And then
point guard. Oh, wow.
No, signed him instead of getting him on point guard and took up the last roster spot. And then Royce White, I don't think Royce White ever scored a bucket in the NBA. And then the one time we got to talk to him, they very specifically told us beforehand, please don't mention, we're not going to have this be about mental health. And we said, like, how nice is it to be on the basketball court? And Royce White went into like a 15-minute dialogue on mental health and being afraid to get on planes. And like, it was a very different situation. So yeah.
Here's an interesting note for everybody watching and listening. I'm pretty sure the power at the ESPN 1320 building just went like completely out.
Damn.
So we are exclusive right now to YouTube and Twitch. You're getting James Ham about to cut up. Like, now I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty confident we have been knocked off the air.
This happened earlier today. It's happened this morning at radio stations in Sacramento as well. It might be within your group.
If we are off the radio, I'm sure when like James was like, look, let me tell you the one guy that didn't like. And
James shut it down. He shut the power down in Sacramento.
That's right.
As we get back to previewing tonight's game against Toronto, I still don't understand the idea of switching starting lineups to counter big versus small and all of that different type of stuff. If you're just tuning in, Chimezie Metu is in the starting lineup tonight instead of Terrence Davis. I don't know. Like, I don't even understand if you're Terrence Davis legit has to be asking himself, what more do you want from me?
I got you. Terrence Davis in the press conference on Saturday.
What more do you want from me?
Like, he's played really well. And hey, you know what? We're going to sit you going against a big Cleveland team. And now we're going to sit you going against the big Toronto team. And by the way, no matter how well you've played, we're still going to have Buddy Hield in the end of the Charlotte game. Well, I guess that doesn't have anything to do with Terrence Davis, but still.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? Like, now we're talking about like putting all your mistake players together. So if Chimezie Metu is in the starting lineup, now Buddy Hield and Terrence Davis and Marvin Bagley, who are basically your three guys, although Marvin's done a much better job, but they're your three mistake players. And so I don't get that. That, like, for me, like, I had asked Alvin about, having either Fox or Halliburton on the court at all times. Right. And it was like, yes, that's definitely something, we want one or the other on the court at all times. And it was almost like he joked around with us and like, oh, the media is much smarter than they look. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, but we just went through the first 17 games of the season where that was not the case, where you should have had one of those two on the court the whole time and you didn't. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to like this group of players, I don't see how you can put them on the floor together. Like, you're mixing like oil and water here. It just, like, I don't get it. To me, that is how you run a -10 for your entire bench unit. Or De'Aaron Fox gets saddled with that group for the first 4 minutes of the first quarter, like the last 4 minutes of the first quarter, and then his plus minus looks just god awful. And you go back, you're like, why is his plus minus so much worse? It's like, oh yeah, he played with that group. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. And I would have liked to have seen Terrence go back home to where he played the first 2 years of his career and potentially put on a show as a.
Wow. What is, in just your opinion here, James and Damien, let me know what you think as well. What does this say about Marvin Bagley? Got the one game in Cleveland to start, and they just move on from that.
We've talked about this the whole time. Marvin is not going to start. It does not make it's not being fiscally responsible.
Why did he start on Saturday?
Because they needed him to start one game, and they know that there's no way he can get to he's already, close to the point where he can't get to the 42 starts or 41 starts that he needs. Yeah, so
this is just a mess.
Well, and I mean, we're hearing that they're still shopping him and Buddy Hield. That's the package that they're out there shopping, which that to me makes sense. Go shop these guys if you can and see what happens. So,
but who goes to the NBA store and pulls Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley off the shelf and goes, "Hey, it's Christmas time. I want this." Like, who looks at Buddy and says, like, this give me this guy on my roster?
James. I want for Christmas is Buddy Hield. Yeah. I mean, he might be on somebody's wish list.
I just if he could be traded, and I know, and I said this earlier, James, I swear, if you don't announce a trade at 9:01 p.m. tomorrow night, this whole December 15th thing was fraudulent.
We're seeing it happen. We're seeing like the buildup is happening. So I don't know that the Kings are going to do it. I don't know that they're going to be able to pull off something, but I do see that we're seeing the buildup. We know where this is headed. So like the NBA is heading into the buildup, and it's unlike most trade seasons that I've seen. December 15th is always that date, like wink, wink, when everything starts, but it's not really. It's some weird date that's put out there because it's the first day that you can trade guys that you signed in the offseason. At least most of the guys. I don't think the Kings can trade I think Rashawn Holmes is one guy that they can't trade because they use early bird. I think that
So that's
his
July for him, right?
No, I think it's more like it might be January 20th or there's some other magical date out there when specific players can be traded that were signed under specific things under the CBA.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think we should all be looking and be on high alert. We're already starting to see the buildup, but you've got to be like, the Kings should have been on the phone 2 weeks ago. Like, where do we go from here? That's my point. Like, this team, it can it be the 10 seed? Can it be somehow the 8 seed in this season? Because you got a bunch of teams that are just wasting away and playing extremely bad basketball that should be better than they are. Yeah, but like, this is about long-term projection. And if you're projecting this team that will continue to yo-yo and until you change the players, there has to be a major earth-shattering, franchise-altering trade that shakes this thing up, or we're gonna keep seeing the same exact group of players. This is it's Vlade Divac's roster. It still is. Like, don't give me this, oh, he made some changes. No. It's Vlade Divac's roster without Bogdan Bogdanovic. That's what it is. It still is. So, I mean, whether the Kings would have drafted Halliburton or not, I'll tell you, I still believe they would have with Vlade if he was still there. I think they would have. So Halliburton was a guy who was falling, and he's a guy who would have been at the perfect spot. You still would have had him. Now, Davion Mitchell, maybe it would have been different. I'll tell you, the Kings wouldn't have been in the top 9. That they would have been at least 3 or 4 games better with Bogdan, and that team would have been better. Like, or Bogdan and Alex Len, Bogdan Bazemore, Alex Len, all of those things were in play with Vlade there. The bubble screwed all that up. And I'm not saying that this team would have been like what I'm talking about, 6 to 8 years of playoffs, but they would have been a playoff team last year, or really, really, really close to it.
Yeah, I've been saying it, this group of guys, the core that's been here for a couple of years. Name them again: De'Aaron, Harrison, Buddy, Rashawn, and Marvin. Good individual ball players, good guys. They seem like they get along well. Can't win with these guys, not together. And that's not to say all 5 got to go, but those guys put together don't win. It's been proven at this point. So you got to move some of those guys. You got to move them. You got to move them. And I hope Monty is doing that, because right now, I asked the question earlier to Damien, but right now he's still kind of getting a bit of a pass. But at some point, if deals aren't made, if rosters aren't changed, we're gonna have to start looking at Monty McNair and be like, what are you doing here, man? What are you doing?
No, I mean, that's what I wrote on Sunday. That like, we're at a point. We're at a point where it's like this. It doesn't take some psychic reading tea leaves here. We know who this team is. We're deep enough into the season. We know who they are. They're a team that's good enough to win 3 straight, bad enough to lose 8 out of 9. Good enough to win shocking games, bad enough to lose against a team missing 5 players on COVID out of the rotation and another one who got sick. So 6, but that's twice that we've seen that, right? Because Philadelphia was missing 5 starters and like beat you. So who
That's what
are
we said
you?
earlier. The NBA wanted to cancel the Bulls games if they were against the Kings.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, go ahead, put 4 guys out there. You'll be fine.
It reminds me of that moment when Chris Kaman was laying on the Lakers bench when he was by himself that one time. They had like 6 dudes, and one of them was Chris Kaman, who I don't think was feeling well, and he couldn't even really play either. I mean, the Kings, like the last game that Dave Yeager coached, it could be the last game in his head coaching career. We don't know. But that last game that he coached, I was in Portland. They were up like 82 to something at the half. They dropped an 82. And it was 6 guys. That's all Portland played, who came back and thumped the Kings when Yeager basically waved the white flag and said, we're not going to get to 40 wins, just to be spiteful. And yeah, that was the move. Scalabiciere and Anthony Simons.
Anthony Simons went off.
Just dominated the Kings. And but NBA players, guys who get out there, these are the best of the best of the best that you ever played with. And maybe not your high school, but the best of the best of the best that your high school played with. Maybe that guy makes it to Division I college. The chance of him making it to the pros is even that much slimmer. So these guys are really, really good basketball players, even who are hiding on your bench.
Mm-hmm.
We joke around about Lou King. Lou King, you put him in a different country and he's an MVP almost every season.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmer Fredette averaged 37 points a game in China.
Yeah. He kills in the basketball tournament too, by the way. I love watching Jimmer playing the TBT. You talked about Chris Kaman laying out. That reminds me, you guys seen that clip of when Carmelo was laying out on the floor trying to get like a foul, or I don't even know if he was trying to get a foul, but they went up and down the court twice and they were playing around Carmelo, set a screen around him. He's still laid out on the ground.
I don't think
is that an old clip or is that recent?
Yeah, he was with Denver.
Oh,
it was against OKC. But yeah, he gets fouled. He's laid out. They go to the opposite end of the floor. Something happens. They come back. They're running offense with Carmelo still laid out on the ground.
Oh, I need to find this.
That sounds like good
need
stuff.
To see this.
Yeah, someone said Buddy Hield in China. Yeah, Buddy Hield in China would score
that's a match made in heaven.
50 a game. Because I mean, Marshawn Brooks averaged
50 on 49 shots.
Yeah, exactly.
And
they let it.
He'd be the new step on Marbury.
Yeah, Marbury was huge. So
statue from Marbury.
Since we brought this up, can I just run this just because I need to live in its appreciation again?
Okay.
I'm all about safety, so see how it is on my knees, see how it is on everyone's bodies. I know that this is a pretty older court. Looks like it's fresh painted as well. So I'm just gonna do my assessment and go from there.
It's a new court.
It's a new court.
Yeah. It took me 3 steps to realize that this is not the same NBA court that I'm used to playing on. So.
Oh, he is so special, man.
He is. I don't know if he's special in a good way, though.
And he might be back.
He might be back, baby.
Yeah.
He might be coming back.
So I also I had the game where somebody left a door open and then turned the AC on in Philadelphia, and the court got a film on it. Me and Jim Kozimor and Jerry Reynolds were on for an hour and I think an hour and 35 minutes.
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
Where we had to fill because they were trying to see if they would cancel the game. And then we knew about 25 minutes before they officially canceled it that it was not going to happen. And in that game, that's where DeMarcus Cousins was out with a mop trying to mop the floor.
I remember that.
Trying to mop the floor. And I know Costa came out, took a couple of steps, and was worried instantly he was going to blow out his knee. And he said, "Hey, we got to cut this," and went back and said, "Yeah, we're I won't play." And so that was where they got to eventually. But we had to fill all that time. We kept going to Katie, then we come back, and we just kept going and going and going. It was a magical hour and 35, 45 minutes of television.
DeMarcus with the mop was so wonderful.